right? And my guest is the incredibly talented HeatherChambers. Now, I met Heather at CanCon, and and besides a couple obvious things, I think the thing that really blew me away about Heather was simply the fact that she is, I want to say 22.
Yeah, in 2 days. Yeah.
2 days. So 22, she's 22 years old. She literally has her first book out. She did it at 22 years old, and it's a really good book too. Where It Sucks is a very, very, very fun read. It was very enjoyable to read that from start to finish. And she's on her way. She came out with a purpose, and the thing is, I remember this because this is how I met her when I was in Ottawa. She came with a purpose, and she really impressed. Like, I thought she was awesome, and I was like, hey, I'm doing my talk show, and she's like, my birthday is here. Come do the birthday. So what we did today, ladies and gentlemen, is I brought cake. See, and she's got, like, you gotta say the cookies.
Like a dozen. They are strawberry cheesecake cookies.
Mm-hmm.
I did not make them. One day I will, but I have about a dozen here.
That's right.
Cheesecake.
Yeah. So we were talking off the air, and it was cool. I got to tease her and make her blush quite a bit off the air, ladies. It's always fun to do. But so how have you been? Like, how has this been for you?
I'm good. First of all, thank you for that amazing introduction. Holy cow. Secondly, I have been good. I've been really hard at work throughout this entire thing. Probably the only good thing about the world's current situation is that I can still go to my work, to my job, and just keep cranking out stuff. And I have been hard at work this past year, especially with my series Earth Sucks. And I feel like before I go on, I have to address the poster behind me.
Speaking words of wisdom, balls. I just thought, I secretly, so more impressions of Heather. More impressions of Heather. She's awesome.
That was a bad choice.
No. Hey, listen. Like I said, I how to put this ever so delicately. I still remember the email address he sent me the first time he sent me something.
Which he is never going to ever publicize, ever. I have repeatedly told him to burn it from his memory. I wrote that when I was like middle school or something.
No. So
it's one of those middle school.
I've accepted. Look, here's the thing about the good and the bad about you. Here's the good and the bad. So here's the thing. You're pretty much pedal to the metal, but you make a decision, you're going to go with it, and it really, really, really doesn't matter. I secretly think you have a very heavy metal soul. After all, I was like, you know what? This is probably, like, yeah. I could totally see it with you. Like, you could definitely, like, I could see you on the stage, either on the stage or in the mosh pit punching people out, one or the other. I could totally see that. And right, yeah. And I like, it's just one of those things. Is you're very blunt in like a really, really, really endearing way.
Oh,
right?
Because I will admit, and I have admitted it before, I have next to no filter. My filter has very large holes in it.
I actually like that about you. I actually really enjoy that about you because it's because I'm polite about it, but I don't really got much of a filter myself. I'm pretty honest, and that's it works to my favor because ultimately what happens is everybody knows where I stand, and because everybody knows where I stand, especially with something like this, people trust me, and that's a very important thing.
Yeah,
right?
You don't give off any. When I met you, I didn't get any feeling of this man has like ulterior motives, or whatchamacallit. It was what you see is what you get, and what you get is a very kind person.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's one of those things where I appreciate it. That does mean, though, every once in a while you're going to make terrible choices. It's okay. when I was 12, I liked Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We all have our things.
I'm sorry, what Power Rangers?
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the original show with all the the come on, the putty battles, the epic Zords. Oh, by the way, did you ever see the Spider-Man Japanese bird show? Have you ever seen it? There is a Spider-Man Japanese show. Seriously. Oh yeah.
I need this in my life.
Yeah, you can look it up. He even has a Megazord. I'm not kidding. He's got a giant mech. I'm not, and ladies and gentlemen, I am not kidding. You can look at it. You can find it. Right.
I'm Googling this.
Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man Japanese. It is a classic Japanese show. If you want to see like the early origins of Power Rangers in a very unusual way, look up the Japanese Spider-Man. Same thing. He goes in there, he fights monsters, he gets inside a giant Zord, and he saves the day at the very end. It is incredible. I'm not going to say it's a good show because it's really not. Right?
I'm just flabbergasted by the first picture I see over his face, and that he kind of looks like.
That's it, right? We all have our look. I like pro wrestling, and we all have our things that yeah. Oh, I do. I love pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is great storytelling. Like I love the.
You're talking about yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Macho Man fan. When I was living in Calgary, I had a wall of Zen. My wall of Zen included Macho Man Randy Savage, a drawing of him, Pong, right, Invader Zim, and what was the other one? It was really nice picture from Colette Turner. Which one from Colette? There's another one from Colette. I had her Zim there, and I had another one of hers there. Anyways, that was my wall of Zen. So Macho Man was in the. I actually had an ex-girlfriend. She was staying at my house for a little bit there, and she literally took a picture of herself with the Macho Man. It was because he's awesome. Like, who doesn't love the Macho Man? Right? Who doesn't? Like, it's one of those things where you just look at it and go, and that was my wall of Zen for like years.
It is one of the most wonderful performances and most violent performances, but it is wonderful.
Yeah. It's coordinated stunt work is really what it is. Like it's coordinated stunt work. It's very physical, which is both the attraction and anyone getting into the industry or into the business, you have to learn how to tolerate a high degree of pain because that is a lot more painful than it looks.
I can tell you from experience, wrestling is a lot more painful than it looks, and everything looks like it's when you watch. I go to a dojo, so I train with. In MMA and Kung Fu. So in an MMA, whenever we had our wrestling classes, my teacher would show us this flow of movements, and it would look like beautiful, deadly, but beautiful.
Oh, no.
And it would be seamless. And we're like, oh man, I know what you're doing. I can do that. We get on the floor and we're like, what just happened?
Yeah,
where was my leg? Is it inside? Why did it? And suddenly you're trying, and suddenly your foot is inside somebody's shirt and somebody's head is in your armpit, and you're like, we did this wrong. I've had that way too many times. Oh dear.
Awesome. I love it. So amateur wrestling, I actually see honestly MMA fighters, like if you really look at really like all-time great MMA fighters, they usually have an amazing wrestling background, and it's two parts. Toughest guy I ever even thought about mixing up with wasn't he was literally he was a small guy, but he had wrestled by the time he was in high school for 3-4 years. Tough dude. He would take on guys 3 times his size and actually hold his own because he knew what he was doing. Like he was a legit badass, and I knew it even then because wrestling requires it's incredibly disciplined. There's a lot of grinding. Like where wrestling and jiu-jitsu actually are very, very similar. Is you're still trying. It's ultimately as much. It's a war of wills, but it's also a war of conditioning. Because the thing of the matter is, the thing about that is, okay, you're trying to. So unlike jiu-jitsu, wrestling doesn't actually bend parts where it's not supposed to go. Jiu-jitsu is not above that. Wrestling, you're not supposed to in wrestling.
In professional TV.
No. Even with the head, even with the no. In professional, it looks like It looks like they're doing all that stuff. When you look at I see guys that shoot, they teach you initially. Now, don't get me wrong. There are other like, so we say, less than ethical holds that actually do some really crippling things.
My teachers have gone to like fight nights just within our dojo community where they've been like, yeah, and his bone just came out, it just pierced the leg, it twisted, and there was a bone just sticking out, meeting air, and hey, we got to see what a bone looks like, and I'm like, oh. Good to know. No, it's really dangerous.
Yeah. It can happen. It's not supposed to happen, but it does happen.
I mean, how hard both of you go and how determined you are to win. Be careful.
Oh, absolutely. No, the thing is, like, when you like, it's about like so I remember Demetrius Johnson, when he was on Joe Rogan, say, I love this term, cooking the beans. The idea is I try to take you down. You're gonna be like, fuck you, and then you're like, let's go, let's go, let's fight. But if I'm in better shape than you are inevitably, and let's say we're about the same discipline, we're probably not. You could probably listen. If we ever did wrestle, no balloon animals. Don't make me a giraffe or a poodle or anything like that.
There's so many ways that I can just twist your arms around and make you look like a giraffe.
Yeah, no giraffe. I don't want the neck. I'm old and brittle. The neck just isn't what it used to be, right? You can only do and you can only be a poodle once. You can only be a poodle once. So that's but the thing is, assuming we're at an equal skill set, it comes down to two parts: the mental toughness
and endurance,
and the physical endurance. And I think and both are tied together. I think so. When you cook the beans, the idea is, I get you to the point where you're physically exhausted, because once you're physically exhausted, it's easier to start. At that point, everybody becomes kind of like putty. And
we're told if your opponent is stronger than you, just wear him down. Just if you can't force him into anything and you can't sweep him or anything, just wear him down. Wear him down until he just hits the ground.
Yeah,
and then you have a chance.
Well, not only do you have a chance, you're probably going to win, because at that point, the ability, when you're tired, that's when it's really hard to keep resisting. Now, again, everybody's got a breaking point. There's a point where just no one can go anymore, and that's the thing. Like, when you look at a guy like Kurt Angle's a legit like gold medalist Olympics, he won because he put himself through some of the most. He talks about his like training regimen for the Olympics, right? And it was like, but the idea was he was smaller than most of his opponents, so he recognized the fact that I'm not going to outpower these guys, right? I'm strong, but I'm not like these guys aren't going to go where I want them to go. So what he decided to do is like, but I can outlast anybody, and that was his goal, right? Because that's the thing. Like wrestlers learn. I think wrestlers have a really good discipline of just going in, grinding, getting the work done. Like,
I tell you, the grinding hurts.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. No, but that's where again, that's where your physical endurance and your mental toughness gets higher, because those are the points of in combat. Yeah. It's where you become stronger or weaker, and everybody loses. It's not about that. It's how you lose. If someone's better than you, you live with that. If someone is right, if someone's better than you, you live with that. But if you lose because you got tired and you quit, because everybody has that point.
Well, remember, that just made me think of. Do you remember the movie Monsters Inc? This is weird stuff, but
go ahead.
Mike Wazowski was just about to get into a fight or an argument or something, and his opponent was like, "You're never gonna win, and I'll make sure you never forget that because I'm so much stronger than you." And Mike was like, "Okay, sure, but nobody's going to ever let you forget that you lost to me." Those lines. So even you might be stronger, but you got like a hot-headed, huge-headed ego about it, and the other one remains cool. Nobody's gonna let let the hot-headed guy forget that he lost to the pipsqueak because the pipsqueak had better mental endurance and possibly physical endurance. It's just a massive game of chess.
Yes. You enjoy
I enjoy fighting.
Yeah, I see. I noticed that. I noticed that.
Which makes me so sad that everything is closed down. My dojo had tried during the hoo-ha of 2020 to stay afloat, and they did stay afloat, but got shut down like everything else. So we're starting Zoom classes, and for my kung fu class, it's not the same. It's not. I have punching bags and weights, but it's just hitting a punching bag and hitting somebody else in the stomach. It's just not the same. I really shouldn't say it like that, but it's just
no. Look. I should actually ask this before we continue. Do you have any desire? I'm not sure about professional at this point. I'm not saying you couldn't if you wanted to, right? But I get the impression, at least on an amateur level, you enjoy the idea of competing. I'm not. I don't think I'm against.
Not against it. I've been training long enough that one of my instructors asked. I mentioned we have a fight. They had like a fight club thing. It's not really a fight club. That would take it to much more.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
We don't talk about Fight Club. First rule and second rule. But there is a fight night where all of the Patino dojos come into. It was actually in St. Albert, just a couple minutes down from Castleman, the main Castleman dojo. So all of them come together, and there's a cage fight. I say cage, but it's kind of open. There is a cage fight where they school against school go, and it's not like for money or anything. It's a very supportive. Everybody's coming together and just fighting. We don't throw everybody into the pit at once. There are set matches, of course. But yeah, I at one point one of my instructors was like, "Hey, do you want to start joining the fight nights?" And I was going to say yes, but then 2020 happened. 2020 was the year where I was going to start going into the cage, but obviously that didn't happen. But once I get back in, I'm going to probably try a match or two.
Yeah, I get you like testing your worth. I got that impression. Like you like seeing where you kind of land in the scheme of things. And I get that. By the time MMA became a real thing, I was in my 30s. I would enjoy, I think, the discipline of the martial art. It actually, when I was younger, I was a flake, like a big ass flake, and it's something like so something like this, I wouldn't have been able to handle. Now I'm never going to make myself the claim that I'm going to be like the greatest fighter in the world ever. Like when you hit your 40, when you're approaching 40, you recognize the fact that it's a young man's game to fight like that. But the idea of learning a few nasty, dirty shots so I don't have to waste my time. You get older, what happens is you recognize the fact that really you try to simplify your fighting style, because what happens is it's like, okay,
I'm not The Rock anymore.
Well, it's not that I still like when I was working on my day job, I would lift thousands of pounds a day. It's not like I don't have the physical strength to do stuff. The thing what happens is when you get older is those days of waking up the next day and your body's like, hey, listen, what you did last night, don't do that anymore. Right, and it goes for a certain period. Like you get yourself to a point, conditioned to it to a point, and you can. And there are things you can do to extend that.
That note, yeah, there are multiple things. My instructor every night, the head of the dojo, takes a bat and grinds it down his shin so that he can rebuild and toughen his legs so that when he does roundhouses and stuff, it doesn't hurt as much the next day. But that kind of conditioning, that's what they need when they're like, yes, you need to do the grind and you need to toughen up. So, I mean, don't take it as literally as taking a baseball bat and just going down your leg.
No.
But the next day would be brutal.
No. That's it, right? Like when you get older, you're like, okay, so if I'm in a fight, I don't really want to get into a slugfest anymore. It's not that I can't slug it out with you. I don't want to recover from that. I just don't.
I'll be bedridden for a week.
No, I don't want that. I want to make it so painful. The first couple blows so painful. You don't even want to think about doing another shot.
And that's when you're defending yourself. It should be like this. It shouldn't last 5 minutes. It should be quick in and out.
Most fights don't. Like, I mean, honestly, most fights don't. Like, most fights are literally over in 1 or 2 moves. Like you know, a front face lock is surprisingly effective at like winning. Like, front face lock, I win. No, you don't. Crack. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, try and get out of this one.
Yeah, well, it's amazing how simple it is. But it's one of those things where you just, as you get older, you value your simplicity, and your body thanks you very, very much for it. Right.
Oh, look, I can move today.
Yeah.
I can show this driveway.
Yeah. No, that's not what I'm. No, that's not what I want to use my body for the next day. Screw that. I mean, I'm not. The other thing about getting older is you recognize like things that are too much like work. You don't really like that. Also becomes less attractive as you get older, because it's like
in general, if it seems like work, nobody wants to do it, no matter the age.
I mean, I'm very blunt. Like if I don't get paid for it, if I'm not happy doing it, or I'm not getting an orgasm from it, or some kind of other, right? I don't want to do it. Like, I just don't.
You need a gain from it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I need something out of it, or I'm like, hey, do you want to do it? If I want to do it, yes. If I don't want it, no. I like, and that's where I'm at in my life. Where it's just like, I like, for me, like, my plan before COVID went nuts was I was going to, like, I've done movie stuff in the past. Like, I've been film crew and things like that. And I thought, well, you know, it'd be kind of cool, because I was in Vancouver when I was there. It's like, let's see if I can get on a film crew for a few months and do a few things and meet some more people. Because that was the plan. And then COVID happened, and it's like I was actually
the entire year just went down the toilet.
well, it was like so I had already made the decision to quit my job. I was done. Like, in here, I was done, and I was like, and besides, and you probably recognize this too. There's a point in your life where you gotta be like, okay, listen, I gotta see how far I can take what I really want to do, and see where it takes me and goes. Yeah. And I wouldn't have minded. And the thing is, movies are very much as a combination of creative arts and warehousing. Because if you sit there and think about creative and warehousing, because if you really sit there and think about what you do when you do a movie set, right? If you're on the crew, your job is simply to build a set or take a set down. If you're an actor, you once the set is built, you shoot. You perform for an hour, 2 hours, something like that, depending on then the scenes and the amount of takes it takes. Then the set gets deconstructed, right? Or right by one crew, while another crew is building the next set for the next scene to be filmed. And so what tends to, and that's also, it's one part warehousing, it's one part creativity. And there's a lot more to it, but the thing was, I'd already got my first aid. I'd already took my film. Like, I was doing this while I was working. It's like, I'm basically, like, my next step was, once I was right before the pandemic, I was deciding whether I was going to get my forklift, or if I was going to get my the big crane, because that would guarantee me pretty much a start any like film that required that stuff. That was the plan.
Sneak peek behind the scenes.
Well, yeah, it would be like, if you actually look, I actually have an IMDb page. I actually have like film credits and stuff like that. Yeah, I really do.
Pardon me as I look this up.
Yeah, no, I do. It's been a long time since I've been on a film studio, but you can find me. I have an IMDb page. So,
ooh.
Yeah. It's been
I mean, if you have an IMDb, or as my father calls it, the EBDB.
Yes.
And are we the only ones, like, my family is the only ones who calls it the EBDB page?
That's awesome.
Because we keep trying to pronounce it, and we're like, okay, I am, is there a B in there? No. Is there a P? No. EBDB. And it's just become the site's name to us. So when we hear somebody say, like, IMDb page, we're just like, no, just call it the EBDB. It'll make your life so much easier. We put so many weird, like,
Listen, it's cool that your family has your own language. It's awesome, right?
You know how every family has like the parents have like the parents' language that you kind of like adopt, and you realize that a word that you've been saying all your life has actually just been a word that your parents made up.
Yeah.
We have like 3 of those. We have in my family, because my father's South African, we have random South African words that we use that when we were young, he explained, oh, it means this. And we're like, okay, cool. And then convinced ourselves it was English and everybody else on the planet knew what it was. So, and then we go up and we sound like we're speaking like gibberish to other people. They're just like, what do you mean by this word? Like kip. A kip is a nap. And it sounds really cute. But when we say, I'm going to go take a kip over there, everybody just starts looking at me and we're like, what? A fish? You're going to grab a fish over there? Like, no, I want to sleep over there under the table. Bye. Like things like that. So we have the Afrikaans slang. We have normal slang. We have the parents slang.
I can't say the slang I grew up with. Some of the slang I grew up with simply because my dad grew up in like the ghettos of Detroit. So yeah. So my dad grew up like he was a Maltese kid inside a predominantly black neighborhood. He grew up in that. He was there to like when the tanks were rolling in Detroit in the civil rights in the 60s. It was in his neighborhood. Like it literally. So their slang is too harsh for most people's ears today. And so I hold back on it simply because, frankly, because I know it. I mean, I grew up with it, and
yeah, normal to you.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where, it's a savage reality, and it was supposedly a very soft civilized veneer. And there are some very savage places even in North America, and my dad grew up in one of them. So I'm very aware of that. So I consequently I have very, very thick skin. It's just but and things that would bother other people. So the only thing that really bothers me really at this point is when people are personally attacking other people, because that ain't cool. But but
you back out the verbal baseball bat.
See, this is what, like I said, no draft. Like I said, if we ever get into a tussle, no draft, and like you got your own. Like you're a savage. I can respect that.
It's a physical baseball bat or it's a verbal baseball bat. Either way, you bully someone, you get the bat.
Yeah. Well, it's not even bully. It's just unprofessional. Like I look like criticizing someone's work is one thing. Like I can look at a piece of work and I can say, Heather, you can work on this.
But in a way, obviously, with critiques, there's this fine line. There has to be a critique of something. I find is always you have to give it in a way that does not squash the intended's creativity. If you are critiquing somebody's art, your critique should be something that they can work on and not destroying their motivation and make them never want to draw again. It has to be constructive, not demolishing. That's always been my
there's a tricky balance with that. Right. Like, so here's the thing, right? You have a story you want to tell.
Yes.
And so the question is, let's say up the road, I read something of yours, you go, hey, listen, what do you think about this? Right? I'm going to tell you what I think. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to. I would never attack you personally with anything.
Yeah,
right.
It shouldn't be an attack.
No. So I'll give you an example. I remember my first novel came out last year. Like actually, my first novel, my fourth book. It's out. And I remember doing it at a group. Yeah. Thanks.
Plug yourself.
I do it all the time. I don't. My ego is big enough. Trust me on this. I don't need any more padding. But what I've learned is what I've learned was right. So there's useless stuff. Like for example, one person commented like no one would use the 13. Like, you know how the old buildings had no number 13 in them? Like they want to, yeah, right.
Lockers.
So, yeah. But the thing is, right? One person went to me, there's no superstitions in the future, and I'm like, if I pulled everybody in here and asked if someone had lucky underwear, I bet you I'd get at least one hand going up.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean,
they'll always be there.
Yeah. So like that's useless. But if I hear like, okay, listen, you got this like really bad habit of using this word all the time, and you got this really, really terrible, and have you considered like this and this? Like I think there comes like there's a fine line between useless, like I just gave you, to like, okay, listen, your tenses, you need to work on your tenses. Have you considered this about your character, like especially when you're getting beta feedback? First novel, second novel, like the big difference for me. So I got rid of every said, ask, question, like all those. There's not one verb in
Really?
All of them are gone because I. So here's what I did. It's like I assumed like everything has a story, right? And what I mean by that is there's body language, there's feeling, there's actions, there's all these things, these unsaid things that people do every time we talk. Every time people talk, there's all these like things that they give away. That's
when you're really sad, you don't have to say you said sadly with that bland of an adverb. You could say he sobbed or his shoulders shook or
shoulders shook. Yes, I shoulders shook, voice sobbed. Unless there's something more to it now, or right? But it was one of those things. Yeah, exactly. Because that's language, and what you're doing there is now you're creating an image, like the quivering. That's an image creator, and it also adds a layer to the story. Pacing like a tiger, right? Prowling. Yeah, prowling, right?
Prowling
so there's all kinds like a little bit of like wordplay you can do when you get rid of
just makes it more evocative.
Yeah.
It just enriches the entire story. I also do my best to cut adverbs, like the useless adverbs. Though there are the exceptions of he said sadly, like he just looked at him sadly because like he smiled sadly. I mean, sorry, not said sadly. If somebody smiles sadly, that's an okay adverb to have in there. So there are exceptions, but on most of the time you just say like he sobbed, he wailed, he cried, he prowled the room. It brings more to what you bring.
Well, let's make a little fun challenge. Like when you get to the point where you feel like you have to use an adverb, right? Try and see if you can move around it. Now, there's another exception too. Like there's one point I actually use it that's completely on purpose because it's like the only one in the entire story. There's a reason. Because again, every time now when you so. We can talk about that off the air. But the thing about that is but again, what I've learned from novel 1 and novel 2 is you can create a whole psychology and to some degree a mythology of all your characters, right? Without saying a single word, right? Like not even with dialogue, just how they move, their language, their feelings, their thoughts.
That's important it's an important skill to have as a writer, as an author, as anybody who does any form of writing, even journalism. You have to be able to paint the picture.
Yeah.
You have to read a lot to do that.
You just have to recognize like it's also just studying your craft and realizing what is being done, what isn't being done, and also just adding layers. Right. So this time around, I wanted to create a very specific feeling, and because my next book is a homage to two of my favorite stories of all time.
Oh yeah.
Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Love Ray Bradbury. Nightfall by Isaac Asimov.
Okay, I'll have to add those to my list. Hang on, Nightfall.
So
that's familiar.
Okay, so Nightfall is a short story by Isaac Asimov. So once every 1,000 years, night falls. The star goes out, and it's just like, what would happen to a culture that only saw night like once every thousands of years? How would that actually? It's cool. That's a cool thing, right? So I read that. That story is older than my dad. It's one of the oldest stories he wrote. Yeah, oh yeah, it's an old story, very old story. I found it. I found it in. So when I started reading science fiction when I was a kid, so the first few books I read were Tarzan of the Eighth by Edgar Rice Burroughs, The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, The Science Fiction Hall of Fame, and then Prelude to Foundation by Isaac Asimov. So
people read these books.
The Science Fiction Hall of Fame had a bunch of short stories by a lot of great people like Robert Heinlein. Asimov's Nightfall was in there as well. Lester B. Pearson. Like there's a lot of, like the older, like these guys were old. Like this is in the days like you know what, like the concept of dime novels when they would sell these books for like 10 cents way back in the yeah. So some of those guys were around in that era and that written in those books. So it's a less, in some ways it's a lot less sophisticated storytelling than is today. But in some ways that simplicity is actually really, really powerful because
it's a bite, but that bite has to be extremely flavorful.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and they did a really, really good job. Like Bradbury's beautiful. He transcends time. But some of those stories definitely are dated. But that one was such a cool idea. And it was like, okay, so my Knox novel is about the concept. What would happen tomorrow in our culture if the lights went out tomorrow?
Oof.
It'd be over.
Well, considering our current situation, nothing good.
well, the pandemic would be over by default because we have to interact and we have to move forward regardless of what.
Pandemic would flare.
Yeah.
It would. All of our measures right now. Everybody. The apocalyptic novels would arise and begin to take life. Like we would just.
But also, I mean, there'd be no TV, there'd be no internet, there'd be no communication.
Like, you would all be isolated. Villages would be on their own.
Yeah, and that would be like that's. I mean, so I one of my favorite stories I'm always fascinated with is the Tower of Babel, and it occurred to me like today, like the old day it was about language. Language is thought, but it occurred to me that today our medium ultimately, if you look at a computer, is a light bulb. Like if you really sit there and think about it, that's the medium of our culture. It's a light bulb. So what if the lights went out? But instead of having the whole culture just get wiped out because everybody knows that would be that's truly the apocalypse. What if instead of that it was a prison sentence? You actually take the lights out of somebody, cut them off for 30 days. And what would that be like? Ooh. So it's be like nightfall. It's got a very Nightfall-esque concept of the lights go out. It's night for the first time ever for somebody's life. But in the same token, it's got a very Fahrenheit 451 feel because what would you do in that environment? You would discover things about yourself you never considered before. One of my favorite things.
Forced to.
Yeah, exactly. And then one of my favorite questions. First time I got this question asked when I was a kid, and I never actually thought about it until I read it. It was from Bradbury. It was in Fahrenheit 451. Is are you happy? And that's a really powerful question to ask anybody.
That will send a lot of people into existential crises.
But it's a good question that we don't ask. I would say, who are you? What do you want? Why are you here? Where are you going? Are you happy?
Those
are five really big. Those are five big philosophical questions. If you can answer all of them honestly, you're probably very mentally stable. Right? Honestly, that's no, because honestly, that's the truth.
Yeah,
right?
You can answer the big 5 W's, which have been honestly drilled into our minds since elementary.
Yeah, but it's the 4 W's and an A. But still, I mean, that's the idea. Yeah, but the thing is, that's the thing about. So it's the first time I was asked that question. So happiness in the human soul, especially in a weird, we're in this weird. We have this own variation of a Tower of Babel going on right now, because the light, like everybody's connected to a light bulb right now, and it's a really interesting. It reminds me how fragile, it reminds. So that fragility is something I kind of wanted to write about, and that's the next book I'm releasing. I'm also doing some little illustrations on the inside, and
Ooh.
yeah, so that's my homage, like the homage to Brad. It's my homage. It's more a homage to Bradbury than it is to Aznavour, but definitely I'd say the first third of the book. I never would have considered some of the things I would have considered if I hadn't read Nightfall. So
yeah, holy cow! It's nuts how inspiration can come from quite literally anything, and what wonderful ideas can bloom from just the weirdest things. And that sounds like an incredible story that would come from. I didn't expect that at all. I'm excited for that. That's gonna be amazing. Like,
I'll send you an advanced read if you want.
oh, very good.
Yeah, very good.
You
You can criticize it because it's still a draft. But I mean,
and I will be careful with my criticism.
That's
to
okay.
make sure I don't
Look,
destroy you.
I'm at that point. Look, here's where I'm at. Like this is maybe a confidence / ego thing. I'm interested in getting better. My feelings. Listen, I won't respond right away. I learned this lesson the hard way, unfortunately.
Yeah, take a day or
yeah. No,
to
actually, it's the best advice I can give anyone that puts together art, right? Or any, or in your case, let's say you get your butt kicked in the dojo. Take a day. It's okay, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh! Don't get back up and just start kicking butt. If you get kicked, recover, process, and then move forward.
Yeah.
You will get nowhere from dragging a broken leg.
There's that, but also just simply the fact like your ego is going to take a beating in this life. That's the way it is.
And especially in our industry, in the arts industry, it is going to happen. We have to be anybody who's starting out, who is potentially watching, be prepared for people to say no, for critiques to not be as kind as we would all wish them to be. And just when you get one, like you said, take a moment, take a couple days and sit with it and, stroke your bruised shoulder, being like, because some might not be so nice, but it will, you will get better at taking them, and B, you can learn something from all of them, and just, for the love of Pete, take a day when you get your reviews. Holy cow. I cannot stress that enough.
There's a story there. I can hear it.
Well, that's generations and generations of artists who have all been like, I have this wonderful review. I cried when I read it for multiple reasons, but there is a review here. Oh, boy.
There's a story there. If you don't want to tell it, I won't force it. There's a story.
Oh no, it's just people need to be so much kinder with their words. It just draws back to
yeah, I mean,
a critique should not destroy somebody.
You have
their career.
I think the thing I recognize the fact too is this. I mean, there's two parts of it. There's the creative end, and there's the I recognize something. I recognize something very early on professionally, which is this: every editor wants to say yes. Every agent wants to say yes. Every publisher wants to say yes. Your fans want to say yes. That's actually the thing is, no is actually a very powerful filter in any situation. Asking someone out on a date. No. Well, guess what? That narrows things. It's actually not entirely a bad thing. I would rather have that than someone leading you on, because that's far more dangerous for both of you in the long run.
Yes. Far more damaging.
Yes. So there's no there, but there's also like no for the job, no's are incredibly powerful things that it's a great tool, and that's why
you're capable of learning from them.
Both sides. For editors and agents and publishers, they have to filter because they're in the business to make money. And so from their end, you got to look at it and kind of go to yourself, okay.
They get thousands of submissions a day.
Yeah, some cases, right? And so what you have to recognize is, and also sometimes even when they're rejecting you, and they don't always have the time to do this, it's not necessarily because your book is terrible. It's also because it has to fit what they're doing, especially when you do anthology stuff. I've been asked to do a couple, and I've been rejected a few times when I got to that stage. But it was also just simply because at that point either they had something very similar that they thought was better, and that's not a knock to me. It's just the way it's again. There is a point of personal preference, but the other part about this too is not everything fits exactly what they envision, and what you write. Your voice might be the right voice at the wrong time. There is something to be said. There is something to be said about. There is something to be said about right place, right time, and a little bit of that luck bucker. So there's that end of it. So that's no is not necessarily a bad thing. It can just be not right now. The flip side, right. The flip side, from the artist's point of view, you have to again. This is a tough business. Right. Yeah, it's a tough business.
We will not sugarcoat it.
Yeah. It's a tough business, and if you're serious about this business, you have to treat it. One, you got to treat it like a job, and two, you're gonna have to accept the fact that your feelings are going to get hurt sometimes.
Yes.
Right. You're gonna have to accept that, because at the end of the day, and no matter how high up you go on the rung, let's say you become. Now you might get nicer rejections. I have found like this has happened to me is people that know me. It's like, hey, we can't use that. It's okay, Josh. We still love you. Send it. Like the nicest rejection I ever got was actually for a Tesseract anthology. That editor was so nice with their no. I actually was like, I just want you. Like this felt good. I would have known that felt
for this no.
Yeah, that's just for the no. I can only imagine what the yes is going to be if you're like, holy shit.
It would be amazing. Like, we would bow to your feet. We are terribly sorry. We cannot accept. We feel horrible, but it's very good. Like, that would be the best no that you could get.
Actually, theirs was better because it was just sweet. It was it was actually just incredibly sweet. It was a sweet no. Like, it's like, I can't take this. But you did like I'm really thankful I got to read it. It was just one of those things where it was just like I was appreciated, and actually that's all people really want when you get right down to it is right. But not every editor has the time for that too. Like again, so it's one thing if you get like 100 submissions does seem like a lot, but I mean that's one, but it is a lot. But there's some people get thousands. Some people have like a slush pile that basically could fill a whole car. It's like, this is my slush pile. I pick something out random here sometimes, and I hate myself. And when I hire an editor, that's going to be their job, and it's going to be their personal hell. And
here's the key to hell. There you go. It's that way. See that pile?
So listen, anything you think that might be presentable. Now, of course, if I'm a really evil assistant editor, I just send them everything, just in case. I'm an asshole that way. That's like I'm hiring for an editor. But I mean, it's one of those things where you recognize like from a creative end, no is actually not a bad thing. Actually, in life, it can sting in the moment, but more often than not, the no is actually strong. You're better for hearing the no than not, and that because
being told the truth.
What?
And being told the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read something at one point. Quite honestly, it might have been on Tumblr, but it was somebody who, like, in the same vein of somebody who's looking at their work and aren't that happy with it. If you're looking at your work and you've got these beautiful, huge ideas that you think would be amazing, but what you're writing and what you came up with doesn't fit the your ideas. It's not that you are bad at writing it. It's not that you aren't up to par. It's that sometimes your ideas that are wonderful and magnificent and huge, I want to say your experience, your level, I'm gonna say, you need time to work yourself in order to I'm not wording this correctly. You need time to work yourself so that in the future, when you try to do and write that magnificent story that you had, your skills will have leveled up in a sense. So that maybe it's not working now, but it will in the future if you keep at it. So maybe that story is really good. It's just not something that you can achieve at this moment. So keep working, and one day you will acquire the skills and the experience that will allow you to finally reach those huge ideas and bring them to fruition in a way that makes you happy. Not all ideas, sadly, you're able to achieve at this very second, but it will happen.
Mm-hmm. I have a novel. I have a novel that's been in my head for like 20 years. I'm still not ready to write it.
Sometimes you just need that level of experience to make it.
You gotta live a little in this life. You know, you stop for some things. For some things, you gotta live a little. All right, so, and that's the reality too. And also, your voice changes.
Your voice and your craft.
Yeah. Well, even your voice, like HeatherChambers right now is not going to be HeatherChambers even a year from now. I am talking to you in this moment, in this time, in this place, based on everything you've accumulated over time. I have learned today that that if I wrestle you, that you might actually you might turn me into a pretzel, which is okay. I mean, I've learned this, and she says it, and she does it with a glee on her face. It's like there's a joyful glee. So it's like, so note to self. Be on her good side, because she might kill me, but on the flip side,
I have the most creepiest grin in the dojo. It's just me in the back. He's showing something pretzel-like and bone-breaking, and I'm like,
it's okay. I can respect the inner savage just a little bit. I get it. I actually get it. So but 3 years, like even a year from now, you're going to have more experiences. You're going to grow as a person. You're going to see the world a little differently than you do right now. And then a year after that, it's the same thing. It's a constant evolving door. I'm not who I was even 3 years ago. Yeah. And I finally, right? And I'm not who I was a year ago. I'm not who I was, like, all those things, like, I've evolved. And, well,
and you're going to continue in gaining experience.
Hopefully. Well, there's a point. I think everybody gets, like, I'm not there yet, but I definitely have seen it with my parents who are older, much older than me. There's a point, like, we don't get, and something I recognize in myself. We all have flaws as people, and the fact of the matter is, right, we're not always aware of what our flaws fully are as we fully form. But as we get more and more live, eventually, like I said, going back to something I said, your shit stinks. Everybody's shit stinks. And the thing, and it sounds like really simplistic, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, your shit stinks, and some of it you can change, some of it you can't.
There's only so much poopery in the world.
That's right. Yeah, there's only so much of your aroma we can take. It's just the way it sounds. That all said, right? You recognize, like. It's an interesting thing, because it's your flaws as a human being that allow you to tell the stories the way you tell them too, which is it's an interesting thing, because if we were perfect, we would not change and we would not grow. It would just be a stagnant, boring.
It'd be boring.
Well, nothing. There'd be no point. Like, what would be the point of doing anything if you've grown as far as you can grow? Who cares? Anybody can do that.
It would just be sad continuing at the same level that you always are.
Exactly. No, there's no point to that. So, there's no point to that at all. So, what ends up happening? What ends up being a thing is the fact that you have, like, these flaws we have. They're not always. It's not like I equated it to. I did an interview with somebody that worked on Game of Thrones, and I told her it was basically, it was the equivalent to salt. Salt, if you look at salt, like sea salt, like in a microscope, they have all these interesting little flaws inside sea salt.
But what makes it so good.
But here's the thing, okay? So salt being bad for you is only a half truth. iodized salt, if you look at iodized salt through a magnifying glass, you look at sea salt, iodized salt like looks perfect. It's actually like the shapes are the exact same. It's very mechanized. It's very, very much a processed thing. If you look at sea salt has all these little like flaws, these little black specks if you look at them. Those little black specks actually allow you to absorb the salt in a way that's actually healthy. Those flaws actually make it a better thing for us all, right? And it's, right, so it's one of those things where you look at it, right? Sometimes those very flaws we have actually make it better, not worse, because it gives us that ability to change. But there also comes a point, what I was saying too, is when you get to, I know this, when I get to like 60, 65, I'm going to be pretty much who I am. And, yeah, I mean, I'm going to
live with yourself at that point.
well, like that's it, right? I look at the fact that I can see the fact that, frankly, you know, there's going to be some things about me that aren't so good that I'm going to be very okay with. But right, because
embrace that old crotchety man who's like yelling at kids to get off their lawn. Like,
no, I'll never be that. I'll be the other way. I will be the guy that 80 years old jumping out of planes and playing on trampolines. That's who I'm going to be.
I respect that, but you're on your own. I'm never jumping out of a plane.
That's fine. That's fine. I already got someone that's already agreed to jump. It's all good. I wasn't. No, it's just one of those things where when I get to that old, I've already lived my life. I'm oddly bulletproof because it's not because I can't die. It's actually far from the truth. I've lived my life. So there's really there just comes a point, like my give a damn meter's already half busted. It's like I don't register.
Yeah,
I don't register the same way most people do. I'm very, very, very much like I'll do what I damn well please now.
Imagine me at 65
yeah.
when I really don't care.
Yeah. So I mean that's it. Like I'm very open about this. It's like I'm going to do what I damn well please. I'm very open and honest about that. But that's me now at 39. Now, imagine me at like just even 5 years from now. I'm gonna like I don't give a shit now.
You're walking to CanCon with like socks and sandals and coffee and tea at the same time, and like
I already did the coffee and tea.
Apple, one of those Apple hairstyles just sticking up, and you're just like, yeah, I'm here. What about it?
Huh?
Yeah, I know. It's like I don't care.
There's coffee. You already have it there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. It's one of those honest things. Like you just recognize
unapologetically yourself.
Yeah, that's it. No, like there comes a point you just recognize like I like who I am. You don't have.
I hope everyone achieves that at some point.
No, I hope so, but I did. I don't know. Have you? Are you happy with who you are?
Quite honestly, yeah. I mean, there's always going to be something that I want to improve, but I'm quite happy with the way that I think and I've grown. I say that at 22 as if I'm 76.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with. Look, if you could look, there's gonna come a point. Like here's the other thing I've come to the realization. I don't know is a truly glorious thing to say. And right.
Opportunity for knowledge.
Well, there's that, but okay, so I say it like this. So when I was a kid, and I'm younger than you, my biggest fear was that I was small. Biggest fear is very, very tiny. Now that I'm in my 40s, I am even smaller than I could possibly imagine.
Oh, you didn't mean height. Okay.
No. Well, no.
A 5 foot nothing.
No. We all. It's an ego thing. It's just a shift. It's just a shift. What happens, I think, as you get older, is you recognize the fact that when you, I like the world is not all about you, and when you realize that, or like really, truly, and honestly realize that, it's a wonderful thing because it frees you up. I'm not going to say what you do doesn't matter because I don't completely buy that. But what I will say is the one thing is the impact you have. This is going to sound very depressing on one hand, so brace yourself. The impact you have in this life, by and large, is going to be forgotten at some point in history, and that is actually a wonderful, wonderful gift, because that means you're free to try and be anything you want to be and do whatever you want to do, and note that no matter what happens, right? No matter what happens, in some way or another, life will go on with or without you. And that is a wonderful, truly magnificent thing, because that means that you are free to discover anything. And as I've gotten older, I recognize the fact that there's still a lot for me to see, do. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do at some point this year, regardless of what's going on in the apocalypse.
2021 aspirations. Let's see if this year allows you to do them.
It doesn't matter. I'm doing it anyway. I don't give
a
so, right.
Doesn't matter what life throws at me. Pandemic, tsunami, it's happening. Enjoy the mindset.
Here's what I'm see. What I love doing this. I like to think I'm good at this. So what I want to do is I'm going to get really one of these crummy Mystery Machine kind of like vans and things like that. And I'm going to literally go across Canada and the United States and meet amazing people and do interviews on them. And that's what I'm going to do. Now, regardless, I don't really care. Now, I don't really care what the rules are, but when I start, I don't. And I'm going to be very blunt about that. I don't. It's because this is how I see it, and good, bad, or indifferent. In one very real sense, COVID has changed nothing. And I mean it like this: every day you wake up, there's always a risk you're not going to make it to go to sleep. Every time you step outside, you take a risk. Every time you wake up, it's a risk. And the fact that life has shown it, the fact that life has always been fragile. You can get a disease tomorrow that's completely not COVID and can kill you like that. It can come out of nowhere. It's a tiny thing. You get it, you're done. You could lightning.
That COVID has now really cemented that fact and brought it to life with a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. But see, I've already made my peace with that a decade ago, and with my own encounters with life. All right, so I don't fear that. I accept that that's part of life, and it's always going to be part of life. So I've accepted. I've made my peace with it, and I don't have anywhere I have to be. I can do whatever I want. So
like making a mystery van livable and going across country interviewing people.
Yeah, exactly.
I really like that you've got this aspiration. I want to try and do something similar. Like everybody says, before you turn, 27 or something like that. Before you turn 27, before you start really hunkering down with family, go out, do weird stuff, do crazy stuff. My sister's gone shark diving. Like she's already started.
It's great. I love it.
It's now time. And I feel like with this pandemic, a lot of people are like, oh, right, we're on a timer, which is going to send a lot of people into some sort of existential crisis, but it's true. We're on a timer.
We always have
so go do it. Go do that thing that you've always wanted to do. That bucket list. Yeah, go, whoosh, whoosh.
Okay.
Complete it. So I kind of like that it's now awakened a lot of people and really cemented the fact that I want to try and, travel, go see things. Everybody says travel, but I legitimately do at some point. You know that there are castles in Ireland and Scotland, I believe in Scotland, that like motel, hotel, old castles and stuff that you can live in.
Yeah.
Rainiest countries ever.
Yes.
But I want to go. I want to see. It's going to be cool.
My only advice to you is don't bring nice shoes.
No, don't bring nice shoes to two of the wettest countries on the planet.
It's not even the wet. That's not the issue. It's not the wet, it's the shit. And I'm literally not kidding on that one. It's like there are places there, it's like I hope those aren't your nice shoes, because if they are, they're not.
There's a lot of animals.
That's it. Like that's the only advice I'm going to give you. Just make sure you bring some nice
boots.
but yeah. Some nicely well-worn stuff that you're okay burning when it's over.
Because Lord knows you're going to burn it.
Yes.
You're going to encounter many things and you go, this is cool.
But no, I mean, even before the pandemic, I hit that point. Like when I went to Vancouver, that was the whole thing. It's like, I'm 30 at that time. I was 38, turning 39. I was like, I could stay the rest of my life here. Right? No. I mean, this is where I was. Like, it was like, well, you don't really know what you can truly do, and really, if you fail, so what? It's not. It'll lead somewhere.
You've tried.
You tried, and it always leads somewhere. Always.
Yeah, you'll always gain something. Like.
So let's see. Let's talk about what's coming up for you, because at some point we do have to. I mean, I truly do adore chatting with you, and we can definitely.
But 7 hours later, it's still going.
That'd be awesome, but I mean, not for the air. So
there are plans in place, thankfully, hopefully.
Well,
there are many plans. What in particular were you thinking of?
Well, I know you got more books in the horizon. I've told you one of mine. You should probably tell me about one of yours, because
one.
Yeah.
For the Earth Sucks, I have a series called Earth Sucks that is getting a cover redesign for the next, and branding for the series, because my sister, who is my illustrator, cannot continue with the rest of the series. So I'm going to keep all the wonderful posters and stuff. Like, for one, all of these. We have a typography business on the side called Misquoted, where we take quotes from all sorts of TV shows and books that bring a smile to people's faces. Like, this one's from, obviously, Supernatural. There's another one from Supernatural. And we do this at conventions, at like Comic Cons. So when I'm not writing, I'm doing this. And there's another one that's completely flamboyant in color, and it says, "He was my gay thing." So like we do those kind of posters, fun kind of posters. So where was I taking this? But yes, my
illustrator. Because you're talking about Earth Sucks, like you're talking about Earth Sucks, and you're talking about why you're doing other awesome things.
So we're doing this typography business because of the obvious world situations. We're not able to go to actual conventions physically. And so, there's Redbubble and such, but we've discovered Ko-fi or coffee.
Yes.
Kofi. Have you delved into that yet?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because I'm thinking for both our business here and also my Earth Sucks book series, we're going to be up on Ko-fi in the near future. So if you guys have specific quotes that you would like us to turn into reality, so you can turn them into your phone backgrounds or whatever you'd like. Also, good morning, Ko-fi is good. Huzzah! Thank you.
Jag is actually one of my beta readers. She eviscerates my work on a regular basis, but she actually
yes.
But she does it with the best of intentions. Jag is an amazing human being. I really enjoy her, and she's probably blushing now that I've said this, but it's all good. Thanks, Jag. Nice to see you. I did actually. So she hated my first book. She actually did not like my first novel very much, but it's okay. Her criticisms criticisms were, you can hate something and still with the best of intention. She gave me one of the nicest compliments actually because she was like really, really shy about being brutally honest with the book.
Okay.
Right, she was really shy about it, but it was like, I can take it. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I have been like.
That's the same thing I told my beta reader, my sister, who was my beta reader, the very first book. It was just like, eviscerate me. Dies.
Dying. It's all good. No, but the thing is, the compliment she gave me, it was like, seriously, dude, you're gonna go a long way because you are willing to take the punches, and I appreciated that. Yeah, no, I'm not. No. I get it, but actually, the fact is, that you were incredibly nice to me even afterwards, and that's actually why I was bringing her out. It's like I appreciated that enough. That was like I said, I've made her day. Yeah, you did say that. You did say
For
that.
those of you who don't know, I don't know if you're completely screen sharing everything. She's talking back to us in chat.
Yeah, on Twitch, which is why when I tell people to listen to Twitch, it's just like one of those things to go. No, it's one of those. It's one of those honest. It's one of those really honest. You want
somebody who will eviscerate you, quote unquote.
Yeah. Well, someone that's
Kindly.
Yeah, somewhat kind. Yeah, no, it was also just a simple fact is, again, your shit stinks. And I know I know you that like you enjoy me saying that, but it's the truth. Like sometimes, like
You need to know.
we write in a vacuum for a lot of it, and we think we and the voice has to be true to what we're doing, but the honest truth is right. You have to be willing and able to you got this. Where I said you got to be tough. You got to be willing to take the punches.
Take an axe to your darlings, kill off your darlings, as the saying goes. You have to be willing to kill your darlings.
You have to,
not
right?
Literal children. Thank you.
Yeah, but you gotta be willing. But you also gotta be willing to like again. That's why I said like being tough is not necessarily a bad thing. Because honestly, it takes guts to create something, but I mean to truly.
It takes even more to bring it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with these. I had lists and lists of quotes that some of them were great, but only great because I knew the context of the shows and such. So my sister would look at them and go, "That's fantastic. What on earth are you going to do with this?" And I'm like, "Oh, right. Other people need to enjoy these." Or she would come up with a design, because typography, the whole thing with it is that the text itself. I do, in fact, have a Twitter.
Yes, she does.
I will mention it in like 3 seconds. Yeah. But the fact is that some of the designs that we came up with, we would have to look at each other as business partners and not as sisters and say, that looks like just no. That cannot be brought to life. It cannot see the light of day. We need to change something, and then work together to change it. So we have an entire portfolio of typography posters for all kinds of different shows, from Star Trek to Supernatural to Doctor Who to Firefly and 2-sentence horror stories. And we normally brought them to convention centers, but we are now soon bringing them to Ko-fi in the near future.
I have the buy me a coffee option actually on my like episode descriptions, and so that's actually on my thing, because I'm not sure about Patreon. Like I'm giving it like one last go with it. I rebuilt my
blowout. They made a heck of a tweet and the internet erupted.
Yes.
About like changing their payment monthly things. Everybody blew up. So that brought me to Ko-fi.
I love Patreon too, but my struggle. Yeah, check it out. That was in the last statement. It's interesting.
Yes.
But the thing about Patreon, like for me, my challenge is how do I monetize this? One of the easy way to do it, it's a challenge. It's why I'm on Twitch. It's why I'm doing YouTube. I mean, there are definitely ways to do it, but it's all a process. And so Patreon, I thought would be a good way to supplement that. But I've had sponsors before too, and I still will probably get sponsors going forward in the future from time to time as well. But the thing about that is, like, I'm trying to make this stable. So I thought Patreon would be a good way to do it. I'm not sure for me if it's going to maintain.
Yeah, you have to be able to churn out content like every month or something, like every month or every 2 months.
I actually have a plan for it going
good.
Forward. But it's one of those situations where nice. I'll have to. My buddy, me and him play Magic the Gathering. We can keep going on forever, but just anyways, go to your promo stuff so we can wrap this up. So we can get I want to talk to you a little bit after too, but I mean.
Okay, cool. Well, my Twitch. Not Twitch, sorry. I'm now looking at the chat. Anyways, Ko-fi, and I'm also on Facebook for my name, HeatherChambers. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Heather heatherc_author. I write how do I say dystopian YA novels with LGBT characters. Pardon?
Sorry. Online for Jag, and that's the last question I'm going to answer. We're going to redo your pitch because I'm professional as fuck. Online. Anyways, go.
There you go. So you can find me there, and upcoming there is around August, the second Earth Sucks novel called The Commander is coming out with potentially a prequel, a short story prequel for anybody who subscribes to my newsletter on my website, which is HeatherCauthor at wordpress.ca. So there's going to be a prequel coming out. If you guys enjoy the show The 100, all of the apocalyptic disaster of a world that is, and you like the Joss Whedon effect of comedy and humor, then check out Earth Sucks on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And I'm quite excited to bring all of this to you guys. I'm even looking into designing specifically scented candles towards certain characters. So if you guys are up to it, shout me a message. Twitter, Instagram, almost said Snapchat.
So her Twitter is at HeatherC_author. Did I get that right? Yeah. So yes. check her out there. Beyond that, I will say this very nicely about Earth Sucks. To me, it's a very heavy metal novel. It's the apocalypse of a very it's the apocalypse of a very punk rock mentality. It was very fun read, very engaging.
It's a survival.
Yeah, kind of. I just, for me, the countdown. I love the little countdown. Like the way you built, how you built that. It was really, really interesting. I'm kind of curious where that goes. So,
the countdown that he's talking about is that there's a countdown for how many humans are remaining on Earth.
That's it feels. I'm not gonna lie, it was very Alice Cooper to me. It very feel like Welcome to My Nightmare. We had that vibe to it, which is really, really fun. But anyways. Heather, you're awesome. Stay here. We'll finish chat when this is off. But everybody else, thank you very much. This is one of 2 streams today. I'm doing a drink and draw tonight with Bill Moss, which is going to be really, really fun. So I don't know what I'm drawing yet. I'm probably going to try to draw something from Mortal Kombat. I have like 5
You need more of those. I was going to say Tetris, but those Lego stashes. You need more Lego stashes.
I did. Yes, I do.
We have figured out that Lego stashes is porn stash.
That's right. Life is always better with a porn stash, but that's neither here nor there. But I need to do that. All the Lego. Yeah, I sold my second piece actually, which was a Lego night there, and it's kind of cool. Beyond all that, guys, yes, it is. But thank you everybody for watching and listening. And if you guys want to support this channel, I'm on twitch.tv/justjoshinpodcast. My YouTube channel is Joshua Pentolaresco. Stay inspired, keep shining in the dark, and I'll see you guys tonight.